how would you be able to completely establish that women who come to your bar are biological women?
That is the controversial question.
Yeah, it really is.
Controversial question. We're going to have terms and conditions, and if you breach those, then you're going to be ejected.
Yeah, but okay, so what are the terms and conditions? And how do you know if they've been breached then? So terms and conditions: don't have a penis. I assume that's going to be high on the list. Are you doing examination? Are you testing chromosomes? You know, like when at the height of COVID, when they would have those scanners that you do the temperature check on somebody's forehead? Do you think they have something like that, but for chromosomes? So you can find out if you're XY, XX, whatever. Genital inspections at the door could be. You know, you just do a little, and then you try to figure it out. Who knows? It's kind of weird to me, though. Like, I wouldn't go to a place like that. I don't know why anybody would. So apparently Nathan Fielder of Nathan For You fame has decided to come up with another cockamamie scheme in order to try to make somebody money, but as it usually goes on the show, in very unorthodox ways that don't often actually end up helping them too much. If you haven't seen the show, it's very good. And we got another one, allegedly, from Pink News. Lesbian members bar that... Sorry, this is the UK. Lesbian members bar that excludes trans women to open in London. Apparently. And a lot of people have been talking about it, and I figure I would too, because it's actually very funny. So it's like, how are you going to exclude trans women? Like, sure, if I roll up to the spot and be like, yo, I'm a cis woman, actually, I'm not a trans femme. Like, I don't think I'm getting in. I'm a bit clocky. I'm a clocky femme. I know it. I'm happy about it. I kind of lean into it a lot of the time. But I wouldn't be able to get in. But yeah, so let's see what's up. So we can hear it straight from the TERF's mouth, because apparently she did an interview with GB News, which I assume stands for Great Britain News. You know a country's good when they have to put great in the name. A lesbian members-only bar that only allows entry for cisgender women and excludes trans women is set to open in London later this year. The bar, named L Community, which is a great name. I get that the L is supposed to be like lesbian, like LGBT. That's what the L stands for. But to just in isolation call yourselves the L Community, you might be closer to correct than you initially thought. Is set to open as a private members club so it can, quote, legally restrict access to cisgender women only, the Telegraph reports. L Community has been set up by Jenny Watson, who was criticized in September 2023 for attempting to ban trans women from attending her lesbian speed dating event in London. The event was eventually allowed to go ahead for cis women only. Now, of course, the way that they checked to make sure there was no trans women in attendance was probably incredibly invasive, because that's the only way you could really do that. And if they didn't do that, then there could have been trans people in there anyway, and you wouldn't really know, which is really funny. Watson, 32, told The Telegraph that events she puts on that exclude trans women are often cancelled or refused by venues, and that her new, quote, members club could legally exclude trans women. Now, it begs the question, if your events that are just, like, bigoted in nature are, like, constantly getting cancelled and refused by venues, surely you would try to look inside. You would, like, do some introspection, maybe get the gears turning, activate your almonds a little bit to try to figure out why that might be. Surely it's not all just wokeness or misogyny. There might be something else there in that people don't want to be associated with bigotry. So if they're going to go to a bar, for instance, and they know that the bar is openly bigoted, it would look bad for them. Because generally speaking, bigotry is a negative character trait for a person. People don't tend to like it, and people are liking it less and less as time goes on, which is a good thing. And also, like any venues that would want to hold a bigoted event, they're not going to want to be associated with that either. So it's a you problem, for one. But let's see. Quote, it will be for biological females only, and this is why we're making it a members-only club, so we can legally restrict it to women, she said. So that we could only have like 5 people in attendance at any time, and they would only ever be able to get together all together as 5 at once every now and again. So it'd just be like 1 or 2 people there. I don't know how we're going to keep rent, and keep the lights on, but we'll try to make it work. So like we could keep reading the article, but let's just hear it straight from the TERF's mouth. So this is Jenny Watson. Let's see what she has to say about all this, May as well. First bar to exclude trans women. Jenny Watson sets up lesbian bar only for biological women. Let's see. I'm somewhat of a biological woman myself.
And so why the need for this women-only bar?
So
it's a good question.
I don't know if you know, but we had a lot of controversy surrounding the speed dating issue.
No, go on. So tell me about that.
So we were first platformed on Free Speech Nation.
The prodigious Free Speech Nation platform, by the way. So like right off the bat, there are many things to be said here. Listen, from one clocky femme to another, I see you, I hear you. You are valid, but you know, your bigoted views aren't, unfortunately, and neither will your business for very long, I suspect. Like, I don't know, man. On one hand, thou doth protest too much, I think. Like, I don't know if this is true. I'm just speculating here. What if it was the case that this is actually a trans woman, and she's trying so hard to remove any kind of doubt that she's not by making it her entire personality to not like trans women? Even going so far as to invest capital into a members-only bar that's doomed for failure. That's like Queen's Gambit level strategy, if I can use a reference like that. If it's not offensive to British people. May she rest in hell. But I don't know. Anyway, let's continue. Sorry.
On this very channel.
Yeah, and there was a lot...
Wait, on this very channel? Wait, so what is gbnews.com? Is it Free Speech Network or whatever is what she said she was originally hosted on? This is GBN. What is GB News? It's not the BBC. GB News Wikipedia. Is this like a who megalol ass news show? British free-to-air, opinion-oriented news, television, and radio channel. Channel is available on Freeview, Freesat, Sky, YouView, Virgin Media, obviously, and via the internet on Samsung TV Plus and YouTube. Wait, okay, so Freeview, channel 236, apparently. Breached Ofcom standards on several occasions, and as of 12 November 2023, was the subject of 14 investigations into its compliance with Ofcom's due impartiality rules, 1984 George Orwell, including cases of potential breaches of the rule that apart from exceptional circumstances, politicians should not act as newsreaders, reporters, or interviewers. Interesting. Hosts of the shows on the channel include Nigel Farage, Boris Johnson, also joining the team apparently. All right, so I've essentially heard all I need to know about this GB News platform that's interviewing her. It seems like it's just a conservative rag where the detritus of society goes to give their uninformed takes. All right, cool. Good to know.
A lot of backlash and controversy, and venues no longer want to platform us.
So this is because you wanted a speed
you're
dating
insane.
facility that was for women.
Because you're deranged. Because you're, like, clinically obsessed with one of the smallest minorities in your country, whom you probably interact with on a semi-regular basis without knowing. And you've made it your entire life and personality, because you're mediocre, I suspect, in many ways, to the point where you're trying to open up a members-only lesbian bar that you're somehow going to verify the biological nature of the people attending to make sure they're female. Somehow. We haven't really gotten to that part yet. I think they asked her in this interview, though. But so I'm assuming then that these two are going to be like on the anti-trans side.
To meet other women, and they had to be biologically born women.
Yeah, that's it.
Doesn't seem that controversial to me.
It doesn't seem that controversial to me. Girl, don't you have children to pick up from soccer practice? What are you talking about trans people for?
It does not. But, yeah.
Well, clearly it is. If normal people are having an issue with it, it seems like you're kind of the problem, man. No tipster.
We've had men turn up who've behaved inappropriately.
Surely.
So we just had to take a stance.
So what men, right? Like people that look like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson showing up? Probably not as handsome, though, if they're being gross or weird or inappropriate. Or, like, are you saying, like, trans women have showed up and you're just misgendering them? Because I'm assuming that's what's being said. And I'm assuming no evidence is going to be provided of this happening. Because I guess it depends on the kind of events that you're talking about. It seems like, to me, it's not the bar we're talking about. So we're talking about, like, other events that she's set up that are supposed to be for, you know, biological women only. And I imagine that if any trans person is going to go there, if they don't have the knowledge that this is like an anti-trans zealot who's deranged, that they're going to be there like protesting. And I guess you could call that inappropriate behavior, but that's kind of like a wide net to cast. Like, how are they inappropriate? Did they like eat their salad with the entree fork and not the salad fork? Did they not like say hello within the first 2 seconds of walking into the establishment and seeing a greeter? Like, what happened? Like, were they doing crack cocaine at the venue for everyone to see? Like, in what way were they inappropriate is my question. And where's the evidence for it? We're not going to get any of that, but, you know.
Question, how would you be able to completely establish that women who come to your bar are biological?
That's a good question. It's the first time we're hearing the man. I don't even know why he's here, frankly. This is supposed to be a women's only event. Get this fucking dude out of here. Maybe this is a really butch lesbian, you know, and more power to you if so. You know? I'm for it. Especially older, being able to live that long as a queer person is unfortunately kind of an achievement sometimes, so, you know.
Well, that is the controversial question.
Yeah, it really is.
Controversial question.
I'm excited for the answer.
However, we're going to have terms and conditions, and if you breach those, then you're going to be ejected from...
Yeah, but okay, so what are the terms and conditions? And how do you know if they've been breached then? So terms and conditions don't have a penis. I assume that's going to be high on the list. Are you doing examinations? You know? Are you testing chromosomes? You know, like when in like at the height of COVID, when they would have those scanners that you do the temperature check on somebody's forehead? Do you think they have something like that, but for chromosomes? So you can find out if you're XY, XX, whatever. Genital inspections at the door could be. You know, you just do a little, and then you try to figure it out. Who knows? It's kind of fucking weird to me, though. Like, I wouldn't go to a place like that. I don't know why anybody would.
Private members club. So it's going to be
private members.
Exactly. So it's going to be a private members club.
And it's a private members club, and they're going to check your private member before you go in, before you're allowed to be admitted, just to make sure.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
Southwark in South London?
Yeah, Southwark. And you...
Wow, that's thank you for answering the question. The question was, how are you going to verify? And the answer was, and that was it. That's all we got. Like, we didn't get an actual answer. I'm super curious to find out how it's going to go. We could probably watch the rest of this. I don't know that I care to. Maybe we'll get back to it. I did, however, because it's been being passed around like a blunt, find this specific screenshot. Now, people are saying it's a joke, and it's possible that it is, but it's also kind of not. And I'll get into why. So this is Jenny Watson. This is, you know, the aforementioned clocky femme that set up this private members-only lesbian bar for, you know, anti-trans genital inspections at the door. Quote, "We will enlist our own medical professionals to conduct comprehensive head-to-toe examinations. Following that, individuals will be provided mouth swabs for self-collection, which they can then send back to us. These samples will then be dispatched to a lab by us and will patiently await the results, a process taking approximately 2 to 4 months. Additionally, x-rays will be administered by our skilled staff behind the bar, winky face." Now, I don't think this is serious because I'm hoping it's not. Like, for the good of humanity and for the good of, like, the internal workings of this woman's mind, for her own health and her own well-being, I hope it is a joke. But the thing is, it doesn't matter if it's a joke or not. Like, you could say, oh, I'm just taking the piss. I'm just taking the piss, mate. But, like, this is, like, quite literally how you're going to have to verify if people are biologically female or not. Because otherwise, like, there's really no way for you to know outside of, like, oh, we can always tell. So, like, you know, for instance, motherfucking Sigourney Weaver will walk in and she'll be turned away for having too strong of a jawline for a cis woman. You know, butch lesbians who famously try very hard to look masculine will show up and, like, how do you know? You know, how do you know if it's a butch lesbian or just like a, you know, a dude? Because a lot of the time, the butch lesbians are, like, they're trying to be pretty masculine. They'll even adopt a variety of mannerisms typically associated with men in our society as well. Like, are they going to get denied? If Buck Angel shows up, now, that's a trans man. For as stupid as all of his takes are, that is a trans man. And to people like Jenny Watson and other anti-trans bigots, and probably Buck Angel included because, you know, he's self-hating, that to them is technically a biological female. So would Buck Angel be allowed in? How would you know? You know, you just have to take his word for it. It makes you wonder. It makes you think. But that's literally the only way. Like, there's no actual way you could do this. So, like, you're gonna have to have, like, a genital inspection set up somewhere. Like, you gotta get a doctor's note to go to a lesbians-only private bar to guarantee that they felt you up and made sure that you had the gear that is typically associated with women. And then, even then, like, theoretically, there's probably a way to get around that. Or you could get, like, mouth swabs, like, you get a 23andMe done, see your whole family lineage, and maybe also, I don't know if they test your chromosomes, but get a chromosome test. A bunch of people may find out that they're actually intersex, but, you know, they identify as women. and they're cis women. So like there's so many insane things you would have to do to actually make the vetting process for this work that it's like, it's DOA, it's dead on arrival. It's not going to work. And it's such a niche group of people that you're going to get to begin with. Like, first, you got to select for an already pretty small minority of people, which is people who are so bigoted against trans people that they are willing to make it so much of a part of their life and personality that they will seek out venues like this. And at that point, you're already lost as a person. Like, I believe in rehabilitative justice and therapy, mental health care, all this kind of stuff, and expanding all of it. But, like, it's a tall order. You know, I've spoken to therapists before. I don't know that they would be able to fix this shit with a short enough amount of time. Like, it may be like a multi-generational process of trying to fix this person's mind. And at that point, like, people only live so long. God willing, we all live, you know, until our old age and pass peacefully. But, like, it's such an ultra minority of people that, like, there's no way this works. So, like, at that point, why not just have, like, a friend group? Like, you don't have to post your own L's online and become a subject of mockery by doing this. Like, it's all PR. It's all a stunt. But, like, you don't have to do this to yourself. Like, do you have, like, a humiliation fetish? Because if so, keep that to yourself. You know, do that consenting adults in the privacy of your own domicile. Don't involve other people in that shit in public. That's weird as hell. Like, I don't understand. Like, it's just a waste of money if any money is being invested into it at all. But, you know, what else does the article say? So Watson said, quote, "In effect, we have 0 lesbian bars in a country of almost 70 million. I'm going to give it my all to change that." That's not actually true, though. I'm pretty sure there are at least a couple lesbian bars. Now, of course, this is like a no true Scotsman kind of thing, I think, in that she's saying there are no lesbian bars and that there are no lesbian bars that she likes because a lot of lesbian bars are probably admitting trans women, trans women lesbians, I should say, because they're normal people and understand that it's not really a problem and haven't, you know, become pathologically obsessed with it. And that's not good enough for Watson. So she's going to claim that there are none, but it's like, none for you, maybe, you know? I would like a bar that when I would enter the building, I would be given like $100,000 just for being there. But like, there are no bars like that. So there are no bars for me. Like, bars don't exist. That's my level. Like, I will not go to a bar unless I'm getting at least 100K from that. And because those bars don't exist, like, there's no bars anymore. We're on a decline, you know? Kind of crazy. While Watson is correct in her claim that lesbian spaces are declining in the UK, there are now only 3 permanent lesbian bars remaining across the country. Experts have explained that the decline is mostly due to rising rents and the impact of COVID-19 on the economy. Phooey, it's the culture war. It can't be systemic factors that are outside of the control of a lot of people and have a lot of comorbidities with the organization of the economy and a lot of things that are really difficult to change. And no, it's because of a minority group that we can scapegoat and fundraise off of hating and use to get votes from bigots and try to get into power. It has to be that. It can't be like other things that are actually difficult to fix, and fixing them would help literally everybody. It has to be that there is a minority that I hate and it's their fault. That has to be it. Adding that being inclusive of trans and non-binary customers is, quote, essential. Based. But there are people in our community who won't find that safety net in other venues, who aren't comfortable in non-LGBTQ plus environment. So I think it's absolutely essential that we always have safe spaces. Gary Henshaw, owner of the Coup Group, which includes She Soho, told Pink, I don't know what any of that is. I'm outside of my bubble, I guess. I'm supposed to know what the fuck any of that is, when reading this. Further, a YouGov poll in August 2023 found that lesbians are the demographic most welcoming to trans and non-binary people, which is why, people like Jenny Watson are trying so hard to change that, with 68% of cisgender lesbians holding a, quote, very positive view of trans people compared to 22% of all British people. Well, you're fighting an uphill battle in many ways. I don't think it's going to work out. Once again, respect from one clocky femme to another. It's valid, the way you look. But I'm just saying you might get turned away from your own bar, given your own standards. So maybe that's why she's made it. Like, she's the founder, so they know she has to be allowed, even if she was a secret trans woman, Anyway, do we really need to listen to the rest of this? I don't feel like it. It's funny. Yeah, maybe there's more gold in here. So anyway.
And isn't it, well, haven't we got to this extraordinary place now where we're having to come up with these inventive ideas to have spaces for women that aren't...
It's because of people like you. You're inventing a problem, and then you're trying to find solutions to it. And by the very nature of the so-called problem being manufactured because of your own deranged mental illness, and if you are of sound mind somehow, your bigotry, or both, frankly, Now you're trying to fix that problem. And this is not like a unique thing to these people, okay? Like, tech bros will do this all the time, where they'll be like, oh my god, traffic is way too bad, so I'm gonna bore a tunnel from Las Vegas to God knows where, and it's just gonna be a single lane road for cars to drive through. And I'm also happening to be manufacturing automobiles that become traffic when they're on the road, and also standing in the way of the development of like high-speed rail, for instance, in the areas that would transport far more people for less money. It's like, my brother in Christ, you made the damn problem, and now you're trying to sell us a fix to it. You were part of the problem. Makes no sense. Do they run genetic panels on the people entering the bar? We've gotten no answer to this question. All we have is this, which is apparently a joke, people are saying. I would believe it's a joke. In fact, like I say, I hope it is. But like, maybe it's like, it's a joke, but they don't know that they're actually being serious. Because eventually when they try to set this shit up, they're eventually going to, if anybody is so bold as to be trans and go there and like test the limits of their vetting process as a trans woman or trans femme. If they end up getting admitted and then somehow found out later, they're going to find out that, okay, we might need a stricter barrier to entry. And then, the price for admission might eventually be, showing up. And then, you say, hey, what's up? Those trans people, so weird. Haha, aren't they so obsessed with sex and whatnot? Anyway, the genital inspection room is just down the hall into the corner. And then when you're done with that, you'll be given a cotton swab, and you'll bring it with you. You got to swab your mouth. We'll send it to 23andMe, and in 2 to 4 months, we will get that information back. We'll find out your chromosomes, and then you can come back and have an overpriced mocktail with like 2 other people in an empty room.
Inventive ideas to have spaces for women that aren't subject to any kind of infiltration.
So as we know, like Nigel Farage is a host on the GBN or whatever. So like this is a right-wing rag. It's given legitimacy because they have a little, ticker down here, a little chyron, so it looks like official. But a lot of people do that. Not me though. That's how you know this shit is real.
Say from trans activists, I think it's really important on this topic
trans
to
activists.
Distinguish between trans people who want to live a quiet,
Well, exactly, and
I just want to institute conditions that would make it so that trans people can't really exist in public peacefully and comfortably, and would have to essentially be relegated to second-class citizens with like a pink triangle on the sleeve so we know who's trans and who's not. And like, I just want to institute so many different ways that would make it so that there will be less and less trans people open in public and happy about the fact that the trans, and essentially it would make it so that it's just easier to go along and get along to be cis as the gender you were assigned at birth, which would be in this case men, a man, even though we also hate men because we see trans women as men. That's why we hate trans women. If we weren't bigoted, we wouldn't really have to deal with, you could just hate men, misandry. It's a problem in some ways, but you can get away with it. We make jokes here at the expense of men all the time. Like, it's very clear that this is all just flowery rhetoric, always. Oh, well, it's the trans activists that are the problem. And then whenever people are having a problem with a trans person in public, they're labeled a trans activist, even if they're not doing any activism, I don't know if Dylan Mulvaney has ever done any activism. I don't know that she has, like, openly. I wouldn't call her a trans activist. I think she's just a trans person existing. An influencer, content creator. I'm sure, like, she would be in favor of a lot of pro-trans shit, obviously. But, like, I don't know that I would call her a trans activist, but, these people would. Any trans person simply living their life, because there are so many systemic factors pushing back against them and legislation that these 3 would probably support to make them so that they have, less rights than other people. Like not being able to use the bathroom that they're most comfortable in. You'll have a person that looks like Sigourney Weaver, who's a trans woman that is forced into the men's room. And then the whole reason why TERFs and whatnot don't want ostensibly trans women in their bathrooms is because they would get aggressed upon by men, because those are, secret men or whatever. Turns out if you send a person that looks like a woman into the men's room, it's going to happen to them too. You're putting them in harm's way. It's just, not happening to you, so you're okay with it. It's kind of the same for when, people like J.K. Rowling always bring up that allowing trans women into women's prisons is dangerous because those trans women are like secret men and they're going to abuse the women in the place, even though there are no recorded incidents of that happening. And there is way more evidence to support the fact that if you put a trans woman in a men's prison, that trans woman will be abused. Incredibly so. Also, not to mention that the majority of abuse that happens in prisons, when it comes to men abusing women in prisons, is done by the prison guards and not the inmates. So that's kind of the problem you want to tackle first, I think, if you're worried about the safety of women inmates. Anyway, it's the same thing. They want trans people to have worse lives because they want less people to be trans for fear of that life being worse, because they don't want trans people. That's really it. It's that simple. There's really not much more to it. And they could pretend that that's not the case, but like it's pretty clear by the legislation they support and the way that they talk about trans people. They can try their best to be, PC about it, to be politically correct, and, maybe even sprinkle in a little bit of woke terminology, but like we can kind of see through that by this point.
Many of those people, during my university days, I lived with 2 trans people, and then another 2 friends, and everything was fine, and they weren't trying to infringe upon our rights.
Yeah, they weren't, the caricature of trans people that we constantly present to people all the time and fearmonger over. So what's your problem then? Why are you such a zealot for not liking trans women in women's spaces? Frankly, I think, women in women's spaces make sense to me. So excluding trans women does not make a lot of sense.
But things have just escalated.
And do you think there's a good market for where you're going with this? Good market?
That's a good question.
Okay.
I think people are fed up.
Oh, yeah?
I think they're
People are fed up? That's why a recent YouGov poll in August 2023 found that lesbians are the most welcoming to trans and non-binary people. 68% of cisgender lesbians holding a very positive view of trans people, compared to 22% of all British people. People are fed up, though. Specifically patrons or would-be patrons of my private members inspection bar.
very, very fed up, and I think the tide is turning at the moment.
For sure.
So.
You seem really confident about it, too.
J.K. Rowling to open the bar.
So true.
Oh, yeah, that would be nice.
That would be nice. You would like to see the Pope of the transphobes come down and anoint the bar that only, 5 people will ever... I don't know where this accent went. Will ever attend, a year after it's been opened. I mean, if they did get J.K. Rowling, a bunch of people would show up. And, you would probably get a whole bunch of people in there. But eventually they would realize that being surrounded by people like this, who are insufferable and make hating trans people their entire personality, is not really great. And you'd probably just go back to regular-ass bars at that point.
She's not gay, of course, but...
Yeah.
And she's not queer in any capacity, actually. But she does have a lot of opinions on the queer community, as it would turn out.
But she's a supporter of the lesbians,
Oh, for sure. Definitely, man. She's definitely not homophobic in any way. Not in any ways that we've seen. Not to mention, by the way, that a lot of friends of J.K. Rowling probably wouldn't pass the sniff test to enter the lesbians-only biological female bar. J.K. Rowling TERF meetup. Let me see. There's a couple of these images. And, these are all terrible people who hate trans people and have decided that they have nothing else going on in their lives, so that's just going to be what they focus on for the rest of their days, as they fruitlessly, tirelessly operate to try to make other people's lives who don't affect them at all worse. But let's see. So, here's a meetup that J.K. Rowling did. This person's not making it, unfortunately. This person is definitely not making it in the lesbian-only bar. This person's on thin ice. Kind of looks like an aunt, a grandma, a little bit. I would say J.K. Rowling's a little clocky herself, and that's no disrespect. I happen to find clocky femmes pretty good looking, generally speaking. This person, what are you, really, at this point? I don't know, you look a little non-binary to me, I'm just saying. You look a little non-binary. You look like you're trans mask, but you're not too sure of it. I don't know. Kind of an open question, how many people here would actually make it through? That said, they would probably be the ones that would be quickest to sign up for the genital examinations, because that may be the most opportune time for them to finally be touched by another human. Now, it's not the best way, but, anyway. It's very funny. I don't know. I'm excited to see where it goes. It's likely that because of this buzz and this publicity tour that she's going on, maybe they get a couple people on opening day. And it's like, woohoo, people are fed up. The tide is turning. There are so many people here. And then later on, as time goes on, less and less people are going to show up because the demographic is really just not there for it, especially if they make it known that it's specifically an anti-trans bar. And then at that point, they'll just blame it on wokeness or whatever for the bar failing and not, terrible business practices and the fact that the market is just not looking for it right now. But, they're a big fan of scapegoating people that have no effect on their lives. So, it'd be nothing out of the ordinary. Anyway, just a bit of fun, really.